Are we recording? Are we? Oh, wait, what? Yes? No?
Recording in progress. What? Bam! Welcome to Youth Australia.
Woo! Welcome, everybody, back to the Youth Australia podcast. Our second one. Look at us. We're actually keeping to our commitment that we made in our last episode, and we're actually going for it.
Yeah, let's hope we keep it, because last time we said this, it died off very quick. But this time, I feel like we've got a little bit more behind us now.
I reckon.
All right. Well,
what are we doing today?
Well, today we should go do a Q&A, because we haven't had one of those in a while.
I like it.
Last Q&A, I don't even want to search when the last Q&A was. We've had a question sitting there for a couple of months now, and I felt so bad that no one answered it. So here we are. We're going to probably answer that one today. I got a question the other day. It was a really good one as well. We've got some more questions in store for another episode, because there's a little bit more to them that we need to think about. Most of our questions that we answer are kind of on the spot. The ones we got the other day were a bit like, oh, hang on.
We have to think about that
one.
And they might actually be guest questions as well, because some of them were quite like deep in terms of the theology of it. And, I mean, we know a little bit, but not enough.
That's it. Speaking of guests, though, we actually have got some guests lined up. Not sure when those episodes are going to come out, but they will be coming out, so hopefully soon. So Let's go.
Oh, so excited for that. It's going to be absolutely brilliant.
Hey, well, I don't think we'll waste time today. I think we'll get straight into it, because we're going to try and keep the podcast a little bit shorter now. We've kind of been a bit long, that 30-minute mark's maybe a bit too much for some people. So we'll get straight into it. I've got a question here. The question I got was, why do some people receive an answer to prayer very quickly, while another person might wait for years or never get what they asked for? And also, how to hear God or know what you should do at Crossroads or in life in general?
Ooh.
Whew. Now,
Nice.
That's a really good question, because back to my testimony one, I'm kind of at that stage as well, where, I've been praying for a long time and nothing's happened yet. But give it a watch if you haven't watched it. I'm talking about not giving up that faith while praying. I was actually a little bit taken by this question, because I wasn't sure how to go about it. So I kind of had a quick research moment just to see, even though I don't do it often, I just wanted to see what other people say. And there's two things that stood out of all these different sources I use. And it's sometimes God's answer is no, and being patient. Very different sometimes. But I'll start with the no part. So I found a Bible verse that helps answer this a bit better. Matthew 7:11. If you then, though you are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father in heaven give good gifts to those who ask him? That might sound a little bit out of context to this question, but it's really not. So if you want to give good gifts to your children, as an example, like let's say you want to give them lollies or junk food because they really enjoy it, but it's not good for them, you got to say no. I think that's the same as how God answers our prayers. Sometimes he could just give us, obviously he could give us anything we wanted. He's God. But that might not be what we need right now. It might be, even though we think it's the right answer, it might not be what God thinks the right answer is, because our good is going to be completely different to God's good. It's an annoying thing to think about, going, oh, well, God could have answered this, but he didn't, because he said no. If you, as a kid, asked your parents for something, they said no, would you question them? No, probably not. I know I didn't. I just went, oh, they said no. It's not going to happen. There's a reason. And we kind of need to use that with God as well, because God knows the answers better than us. He knows what's best for us and at what time as well. And that kind of brings into the patience part as well. So I found another Bible verse for patience, and that was it Lamentations 3:25-26, which was, the Lord is good to those who wait for him, to the soul who seeks him. it's good that one should wait on the Lord quietly. God's got much better timing than us in everything. Like, we might think we've got some pretty decent timing. No, we're human. That's just facts. When we ask God for something in prayer, He might not give it to us straight away. And we might be like, well, why not, God? I want this now because I think I need it now. He might know when to give it to you at what time. As I was saying with my testimony, if you go back, have a listen, but basically I was saying about my brother and how he got sick and he's in a wheelchair and I couldn't do anything. I kept praying to God, but nothing's changing. And that was last year. Nothing's changed still. I'm still praying about it and I'm still waiting for God to answer that. And I just have to trust in His timing on that one because I can't think my own timing's right. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it for answering your prayer question. And then there was the crossroads bit as well. Now, I think I didn't actually really research as much as well because I kind of forgot about it until then. Patience also kind of answers that as well. Like, we're walking down a pathway, we come to a crossroad, we don't know which way we go, left or right, and we're praying to God going, hey, God, where are we going right now? We're left or right? And we might be upset because God's not giving us an answer straight away. Like, that could be something simple as, hey, what should I have for lunch? This or this, or bigger, hey, what should I do for my life? This job, or something else. We could be sitting there going, God, give us an answer now. I'm stuck at this crossroad. I need to get out of it as soon as possible. What if God just wants you to sit at that crossroad for a bit and just take it in? I think that's what we need to remember while we pray, that it's not, we don't pray just to ask God for things. It's talking to God. That's what prayer is. We're there to talk and communicate with God. We're not there to just demand things. So He will help when you ask, of course. It might not be your timing though. When you're at those crossroads and you pray to God and you haven't got an answer yet, be patient. Wait quietly. Don't rush. Don't expect an answer straight away. Sit there and wait for those doors to open. I don't remember if I brought up in the podcast before about where I've come from in what I want to do in life. But basically, I started in year 10, not knowing what to do for year 11 and 12, which is like in Australia, you get your HSC, you pick your 6 subjects, and that's where you go for year 11 and 12. I didn't know what I wanted to pick because I didn't know what I wanted to do after school. I was like, God, what am I doing? Because I have no clue. And months later, looking in the car, my mum went, you've got a youth ministry, I think. And I went, oh yeah, that could be an option. And then a door opened. Youth ministry is an idea. And then one of my mates, he's like, yo, year 11, they're doing this course that we could go do. It's ministering theology. And I went, oh, that's actually not bad. Another door opened, so I went that way. From that course, we had a guy come in and he went, yo, after school, when you graduate, do this course. It's about youth leadership and how great it was. And that's what I did last year. And that's how I met Riley. And I knew Ethan from church, but he did it as well. And that pathway opened. And from that, I've gone all the way down, waiting on God. And He just opened all these doors at once. And now I'm going to be doing a course in chaplaincy starting soon, hopefully, which will be pretty good. But yeah, it's just from not knowing what to do, being stuck there going, do this, or this, to praying to God. And then months later, having this pathway I've gone down was a lot. So yeah, remember that when you're praying. I think that's going to answer that question as good as I can. But yeah, so to recap, when you pray, don't expect an answer quickly. Some people might get theirs quickly, and that's just God's timing. Some people will be longer because that's what God knows is best. When you're at a crossroad, wait for God and just let Him answer that for you. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Had a little bit of thought behind that one. Except the crossroad bit, I just kind of winged that, but
good on you. I think I can add something to the crossroad bit as well.
Yeah, go on.
That sometimes, and this has been like especially true of me and the direction that I've gone in life, sometimes God speaks most clearly in shutting doors.
That's it.
You know, honestly, the hardest decisions that I've had to make in life have been when God has had left 2 doors open for me. But, you know, I'll say, like, normally that's, for me at least, that's not the case. You know, there'll be an open door or there'll be a closed door. And at that point, it's like, well, if you try and push your way through that closed door, things aren't going to work out, and it's not going to feel right and what have you. But yeah, just something little there.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Well, I hope that answers your question anyway. If not, just I know you're on Discord, DM me and we can talk about that. So yeah. If anyone else wants to ask more about a question we answered today, by the way, feel free to send us a message. We got our email there, will be linked below. You can send us a message and go, hey, well, not sure what you meant by that, or hey, can I add to this in some way or the other? We'll gladly talk to you about it. But yeah, 100%. I think we'll move on to another question now. And I think, Joel, you've got one there.
I've got one here. This is an interesting one. So this is from Wilkes on our server. She says, this is a question I've been pondering on for a while now. Matthew 23 verse 9 says, do not call anyone on earth father, because you have one Father and he is in heaven. I struggle with this. I love my dad so much. I understand that God provides like a father, but I wouldn't say that I love God like I love my dad. Keen to hear your guys' thoughts on this.
That's a great question, eh?
It is a great question. So there's a couple of ways that I've been thinking about like approaching this. So there's one from like the theology side, and then there's one from more of the like practical life side. So in terms of the theology side, this statement of Jesus is kind of strange. It's a strange thing to say, especially when one of the most important commandments in the Old Testament is honor your father and mother. And specifically, that's an important commandment because that's the only commandment of all the 10 commandments with an actual promise that it will go well with you. So that's quite a significant commandment. But then Jesus is here, like, do not call anyone on earth father, because you have one Father and he's in heaven. Like, that seems pretty dishonoring of your parents. Well, so one of the things that's a little bit tricky sometimes for us in the West to understand is the way that ideas, specifically these kind of philosophical ideas, are presented in the Bible and in Jewish thought. So in the West, we like things to be very binary, like very black and white, like love your father, hate your father. That's the way that we present things. Whereas, Middle Eastern cultures, like the culture that the Bible is from, present things on a much more nuanced and gray kind of scale. Part of the way that this is presented in the Bible is through these kind of contrasting statements. You have one statement that says yes, and you have one statement that says no. And this is not just in this case. There's a ton of examples in Proverbs where, there'll be one proverb that says that one thing is good, and then another one below it says that that's bad. And people get really confused by that because it's super confusing. But the idea of that is that the actual truth of what is being said is found in between both extremes. So that's sort of the way some of these contradictions that appear in the Bible is they're part of the way that those cultures present their ideas. And so to go on with that, he says, do not call anyone on earth father, because you have one Father and he is in heaven. I'll be completely honest. If this verse is taken very literally, I would struggle with it the same way as you do. In fact, I struggle with Jesus' relationship with his parents in a lot of ways. In terms of the Bible, he multiple times rejects his mother in front of crowds, saying, I don't even know you. These are my mother and brothers. However, I think person who's asked this has kind of hit on the idea that God provides like a father. And I think that's the important part of what Jesus is saying here is that if you're always looking to earthly fathers for provision, they're always going to fail you. But God will never fail you.
Mm.
And I think it's not just your biological father, your dad, that you can set up as a father. You can look towards, people that you really admire. They can become father figures. Even stuff like, your boss or your job or things like that can become fathers. I think, another biblical term that maybe could work there is, idols. We set these things up and we look towards them for help and security. In the same way as like when you're a kid, your dad is Superman. It's like, if you've got a problem, you run to dad. And we look to these fathers to save us. But we only have one father, and he's in heaven. And he actually provides everything that we need. In terms of the last thing, wouldn't say I love God like I love my dad. Yeah, that's a tough one. And loving God can actually be, I think, one of the most difficult parts of the Christian walk. Because when you love someone on earth, they're there. You're connected with them. You have physical interactions with them. With God, sometimes it's very difficult to feel a lot of the time that you have that close connection. So yeah, look, I totally agree with you on that. But I think that, eventually, especially once we get in heaven, now we understand a little, and in heaven we will understand fully. And I think it's when you say that you don't love God like you love your dad, I don't think that's true, because the love that you have for your dad is a God-given thing.
It's good, yeah.
When you love your dad, you're actually loving God. It's the same way as Jesus says, if whoever is given me a cup of whoever welcomes one of these little ones welcomes me. And it's this idea that when you serve people, when you love people, that you're actually doing that for Jesus. Through the face of people that are in need, we see the face of God. And I think that would apply here too. So yeah,
that's good.
I hope that answers that question.
I think it does. I think that was actually a really good answer.
It's
was reading the question again because it was a big question. Yeah, no. It is a very tricky question because it's a lot to think about. In that black and white kind of mindset, you're like, oh yeah, fair enough, guess I just won't love my dad anymore. Christianity achieved. No, that's not it at all. To recap it, don't stress and say, oh, I love my dad. That's not a problem. Is the main thing there. And yeah, love God, love your father. You're not doing anything wrong if you do that.
Exactly. I think, yeah. I think, yeah, the idea that a father represents some kind of thing that we look towards for safety other than God, I think, to me, helps answer that question.
Definitely. Alrighty then.
Yeah.
I think that's all we've got time for today, question-wise. As I said before, we've got guests coming soon. I'm not sure when we're going to get them on. Hopefully soon. I'm just looking at a list of guests we have. I'm assuming a lot of people are looking, if they're on the YouTube video, they're going to see my monitor in the background here. I'm not scrolling through anything just to waste time. I'm actually on our page here. Like, this is our question page and guest list and everything. If you can see that scroll, don't stress. I'm not on Messenger. I looked at the blue before I went. That looks like a message I've sent. That's not the case. But yeah, I've got my guest list here. I'm going to start contacting them. Some people are already 100% down to join. That is, they said, give us a date, time, and question, or we'll be there. Keen for that. As I said, not sure when they're coming. Hopefully next few weeks, though. Yeah. Stay keen for that one. Definitely, Sam. It's going to be interesting. We've never had a guest before, so that's going to be interesting.
It is going to be interesting. Yeah, trying to sort of shift the focus off us a bit. And
yeah, I mean, we always going to do our best to answer any questions you guys give us, but we're only human. We're not even... Joel, how old are you? You're not 20 yet, are you?
Not even 20.
Yeah, we're not even 20 yet, so here we are. But yeah, we'll get some guests that have been studying their whole life, and it'll be great. And we'll go from there. 100%. Anyway, I think we might wrap up with a quick prayer. If you don't mind, I'll just do something quickly.
Go for it.
But yeah. Lord, thank you that we can come again for another podcast episode. Lord, I just pray that those answers we gave helped the people that asked them. I just pray that with those answers, they take it and they apply that to the problems they were having or concerns they were having as well. Lord, I pray that these guests coming, they just have the best possible answers for anyone who asks a question, and they provide some stuff for people who are too afraid to ask questions as well. Thank you, Lord, that we could be here. Amen.
Amen. And like we said earlier, if anyone has any questions that they want us to answer, there'll be all the links to the socials down in the description. And if you're on our Discord,
definitely Discord there,
which hopefully you are, there is a podcast channel, and you can chuck your questions in there and any thoughts you have on the podcast, and we will see them and we will answer them. You may get some over enthusiastic people answering your questions already because they're super keen to help you guys out.
Some people are just on it, went, oh, hang on, this is the podcast questions. I'm dipping out. That was a fun one. I love that. Shout out to them.
But yeah, look, chuck them in there, and we'd love to hear from you guys. Also, give us your thoughts, if you haven't already, about us moving to a live podcast, what you think about that.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Alrighty then. I think that's it for the day, but we'll see you guys later.
Awesome. Catch you guys.
All right. Catch ya.